declared himself the last true prophet of the one true God. 200 years later, the great Persian warlord Yaqub ibn al-Layth al-Safar brought this new religion to the land. Sofia knew the history well, but for a few precious minutes it felt as if dawn over the Hindu Kush belonged to her. Had her obsession with the country grown from the stories overheard late at night about the grandfather who had served in the British Army in Afghanistan? Or had this man she had never met planted the seeds of Afghanistan in her genes more than a century ago? None of that seemed to matter anymore, because what Sofia did know for sure was the exact point in time when coming to Kabul had become inevitable. All the befores and afters led to and from the moment she had been told about a Dr Jabril Aziz seeking a female doctor to work with him in Kabul. The next moment in time, the one that assured she would remain in Afghanistan, had been in a village high in the Hindu Kush. Sofia picked up her tea from where she had left it on the windowsill. Taking a sip, she stared up at the mountain range, remembering the village, but also the man there who had looked at her with something more than longing and had made love to her with something more than desire. Over the years, though, his memory had begun to falter and fade until Sofia could no longer put the whole of him together again. At first this had troubled her, but in time it became less troubling until his memory had become little more than a vague, worrying shape, a watery dream that might have belonged to someone else. And yet, if the hour was right, or the day had been of a particular sort, he might return, and she would find herself turning each memory over and around, examining its color and size and shape until she could see again the way he smiled at her, or a particular way he moved or laughed, and she would feel again the pain of loving someone who had never loved her. Sofia held the tea in her hands, drawing comfort from its warmth, because in 2 hours he would be standing in front of her. She had no idea how she felt about that. Excitement? Fear? Apprehension? It had been 5 years. Would he even remember her? Placing the cup back on the windowsill, she leaned down and picked up the newspaper lying at her feet, opening it again to page 2. Dr. Daniel Abiteboul from the United Nations arrived in Kabul yesterday. He will be spending the next month assessing the country's most pressing needs on behalf of the organization. Without registering the name of the sender, she had flicked the email from the United Nations representative onto her receptionist, Iman, and it was she who had replied on Sofia's behalf. But then she had seen his photo in the paper last night and pulled the email up again, reading it carefully for any hint of recognition, but there had been none. Staring down now at Daniel's photo, a long-forgotten memory began to form. Hands strong enough to pull a broken bone back into place, but delicate enough to sew tiny stitches into the face of a baby, and sensitive enough to set her skin on fire. She leaned back in her chair, following the memory. The first night he had come to her, he had arrived in silence, placing his finger to her lips, waiting until she understood. Only then, when he was absolutely certain she wanted him as much as he wanted her, did he lean in and kiss her. Every night after that, when the village had settled down for the night, Daniel would leave his bed in the mosque and return to her. And every morning, before the village began to stir, he would go. As they worked together during the day, not a word was spoken of what had passed between them in the dark. But there had been times when she would look up from her work to find him watching her, as if she was a puzzle he could not solve. And then he had disappeared, and his leaving, like his lovemaking, had been a surprise. It had been such a strange, haunting affair. Without the distraction of life outside the village, time and movement had slowed to a gentler pace until each moment was intensified. When Sofia worked with the village women, or she gazed up at the mountains, or made love with Daniel, there was nothing in the world but that single, complete moment. Flipping the newspaper shut, she found herself looking at a photo of the aftermath of a suicide bombing outside Kabul's main police headquarters from the day before. She had not heard that particular explosion, but she had heard enough. The first bomb had been a couple of weeks after she had arrived in Kabul, and so close to the square that the sound